What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Littleroot Lessons. What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Littleroot Lessons, episode number 200, 200. Look at that. Look at us. Carl,
I think I read a statistic one time that most podcasts don't make it to episode 10.
Well, we've made it. 200
really
episodes.
Did.
Here we are.
That's a lot of weeks. That's multiple years.
200 straight weeks.
I was telling Tiff, we're coming up on 4 years of LRL.
And we have not missed a single week. There were a few weeks that were really, really close.
Really tight, but...
Yeah, there were, we had the first ever non-Carl Carter episode, the Jay and Rose show. Yeah. I think there was one episode Carl recorded while he was dying and then proceeded to not, work for the next... I think he was out of work for, 2 or 3 days because he had the worst... he just got the migraine of all migraines. But yeah, this is... I honestly, I can't believe it that we're here.
We've never recorded and released an episode in the same day. That is one thing we've never had to do. Which I'm very fortunate that Carl has always taken the time to make sure that things are edited and slapped together appropriately. But I mean, a big part of that is because we're also uploading everything to YouTube. There's some kind of editing involved in everything anyway. So it's not just as simple as, all right, sit down, record, ship it. It's not that simple. So,
yeah, shout out to Carl for all of his legwork, especially over the past few months with dealing with our craziness and all that. Who would have thought that me and Angelo would be sitting here in episode 200 doing the Q&A? Exciting stuff here.
This is so I did look, we did do a Q&A for the 3-year anniversary. I was on that episode as the moderator, and to go from that to actually being a part of it, we'll get to the sappy stuff at the end. But yeah, let's we are doing a Q&A episode, and we did get a lot of questions in from our community. Thank you to every single person who asked questions. And we're going to kick it off. I'll get the first one. This question is asked by Hush, my new USPA teammate on Team Rest of New England. Hey all, congrats on 200 episodes. Each of you tell us a little about your favorite team you've ever built, and what was it about that team that made it so special? So I think I'm going to have, I think mine's obvious. It's my Secaucus team. It's the Speed Swap Calyrex, Life Orb, No Protect, Go Zoom, Dialga. It was the team I used at my first ever IRL event. I came top 32 at that event in 21st place at a really tough regional for my first regional. And it was just such an amazing team to pilot and such a fun team to pilot. Jay, I think I can guess your team.
Yeah, speaking of obvious, I have another team that I also really like that I built in Series 10, which was Eternatus with Articuno, the Kalos form, which that team was really fun. It was just a nice meta counter into the Tornogre stuff. But obviously, my Orthworm Garganackle team that I took to 19th place at Hartford is definitely my favorite team I've ever built. I spent time with Hush, who... at Hartford, he was one of my support group that weekend, and yeah, that team was really special. Just using a couple of my favorite Pokemon with Garganackle, with Orthworm, with Amoonguss was awesome, and to take it on the run that I did, and of course getting on stream and beating Chuppo was a highlight of just my life. So yeah, definitely that team.
I think mine, actually talking about Series 10. I had to go watch the video again from the Goodbye Galar Gauntlet that we did. Series 10, Jay and I played against each other. And it made me laugh because the intro for that is also just a cold open of Jay and I screwing up the outro and not recording it. So Carl has this whole snippet at the beginning of just like, this is the kind of bullshit I had to put up with. And it's just us like, oops. So it makes me laugh that here we are, a year later, a year and a half later or whatever, and Carl's still having to put up with our bullshit.
I think he has some fun with it.
That team was the Quagsire Eternatus team. That
With
was
Raikou,
just
right?
Yeah, Raikou and Insane both.
Insane.
Ensign. It was Raikou and Ensign just like snarling and like just making your opponent just feel miserable and just sitting there and like toxic stalling with Eternatus. Because why do damage?
Our match was insane too.
It was a very fun match. The other one that really comes to mind of just like quality meme teams is obviously the Monkeys. It's so bad that it's
the
good.
last time we're ever leaving you unsupervised in the kitchen.
Oh, that's not even accurate. Carl and I have been, and by Carl and I mean Carl has been brewing up some stuff. Carl's been
brewing,
and I told him that our plan, which I don't even think we've talked about on the show yet. Our plan is once Regulation F comes up, is to record a video with every new Pokemon that's being added to the DLC, right? Which includes some real stinkers. And I told Carl, I'm like, we're just gonna need to knock them out. Like Angela's gonna play all the good teams, so I had to play all the like F tier like content mining bad teams. He's like, I got you. I'll
the
start
YouTube
brewing.
content teams.
Yeah. And even then, man, there's some that are just like, how are we ever gonna make this viable?
I just thought, like, what do we do with Dugong?
Fake out.
According to Carl,
Parasong.
Dugong's good.
Okay, Fake out Parasong. It's the only Pokemon that can get it.
That's great. I did see, not to spoil one of them, but the plus Lominum, that's hot. That's funny. That is
so funny.
It's amazing content.
I just needed to work once. That's all I need.
I've really loved the contrary Hydrapple teams. I know Hydrapple's actually decent, but with Malamar, you get to use a skill swap contrary onto Hydrapple with a super sweet syrup and just do Leaf Storm stuff.
That sounds
turn it into
hilarious.
Yeah, because Malamar's new from the DLC, superior. Right?
Yeah, Malamar's new.
Yeah, so you use that, but you also get the super sweet syrup, so you never miss. You get two of them, and then you're hitting Draco Meteors and Leaf Storms with contrary.
Do you need the second one?
I think it guarantees it 100% of the time. I think it goes up to 97 with the one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, it's just good to be able to, like, once you clear out the first two Pokemon who experience super sweet syrup, getting that second one up since the ability only activates once per mon. Which I do wish it acted like Intimidate, but then it would probably be a little too broken. Yeah. Moving on to the second set of questions. We actually have three very similar questions, and we're just going to bang all of these out at once. We have a question by Penguin, Matt. When are you going to get Penguin on the podcast? After 200 episodes, I think it's time to give the people what they want. We have a question by my kid Spack. When am I going to host instead of Ro? I think I'm better qualified personally. And finally, we have Papa Swish asking, he said in the host now, Carter, deal with it, but I think he meant I'm. To answer these questions, Matt, when we get Littleroot Lessons After Dark, Spack, when you're older, and Carter, you can go take the Papa Swish one.
Ryan, get good. I don't think Ryan even plays Pokemon anymore. I think he just likes hanging out with us.
And we appreciate you being here.
We do.
Ryan and I have been talking Call of Duty the last couple days or whatever, and so he sent me a text the other day. Let me see if I can find it. He just texted me the other day. He's like, "Hey, when do you want to play Fortnite?" I said, "I play COD like a man now." He's like, "I mean, real men play Apex." It's like, no, that sounds atrocious.
I've never played any of those games. I've never played like Fortnite, COD. Okay, that's a lie. I've like played COD, like I've played COD like someone else had. I'm like, well, sit and try it. I am absolute ass at first person shooters. I am so like horrific, to the point where I never have fun doing it.
Me too. I've played all of them, and I do enjoy playing them every once in a while, but I stink, so it's hard for me to really just get too invested in it.
Jay
That's
and
why
I
I play Dark
played,
Souls instead.
Jay and I played Overwatch 2 when it came out. We played that a couple different times, and it was enjoyable. But I think the real fun of that was just like hanging out, and like it didn't matter what we were doing as long as we were doing it together. That was the fun part.
That's the one first person shooter that I'm actually okay at. Me and Alex play that sometimes. She's absolutely cracked at Overwatch 2. She's one of the best players I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah, she's really nasty. So we play that a lot. But yeah, I'm a Sigma main, and if I play any other character, I'm pretty trash. So
Yeah.
And then when it came out, he's like, "How do I play Sigma? It's not unlocked. How do I do this? How do I get it?"
Oh my gosh, I was losing my mind because I couldn't sync my account yet. So I was just like, I can't play him. I need to play 100 games to get him. I'm not playing 100 games of characters that I'm trash at. And they like tweaked the other characters too that I used to play to where I couldn't play them anymore. Like they changed the Reese's toolkit, so I stunk at her then, and it was like I can't. And then my account merged, and I got all my Sigma stuff back, and I was like, all right.
It's like, all right, cool, we're good. And surprisingly, after that, Jay was much better than me. Okay, so we have another question. We have a couple questions here from Bija Beej. The first one asking, what bad Pokemon is your favorite to play with? And I think the correct answer for me is just like, give me any terrible like meme, and I'll make it work in some degree, right? Like, bad Pokemon are my specialty. I've played like Slowking. That was really not good. Like PZ is also another one that I'm just like in love with, which that was one for Series 6. I played a lot of like PZ Whimsicott stuff, which was at the time actually really good, but that was because like they super restricted the decks of like it made things even like lower power level than they already were, which is saying something. But yeah, like I mean, bad Pokemon are kind of my specialty. I need to go sync up my teams real quick on Showdown.
I think one of the other things, and this is just popped in my head about like Series 6, why like PZ Clef was so good, or just like PZ teams. I still think at that time we didn't realize how disgustingly powerful Urshifu was. Like you saw Waterfu on the Coal teams in Series 5, but like that's really like all you saw. I don't think it was until like Series 7 when everyone was like, "Oh, Wicked Blow and Surging Strikes are the dumbest moves in the entire game." So I think that was like another it. Jay, you go.
Yeah, it also didn't matter for PZ because it was next to Clefairy anyway, so
Yeah.
it wasn't getting hit. So you know, if you've been keeping up with the content, you know this past couple weeks, you know, I've been playing a lot of RTT. I've been a part of the league for a long time, so I do also love my Trash Mons. This season, if I had to pick one from like this season, like Torterra and Houndoom have been absolute goats, but all time, my favorite trash Pokemon to use is Riolu. That thing is the goat of RTT.
It's so annoying.
I've used it on multiple of my teams, and like the fact that coaching's back now, so it gets prankster coaching.
I literally had to go look.
It gets both the weathers. It's still at Howl. It gets Quick Guard. It gets like all these really good support moves that are great to pair next to like big physical attackers, especially in like the Dynamax formats of Sword and Shield when I started playing. Riolu was a blast. I also loved playing it with Copycat Trick Room Palkia and Copycat Trick Room Calyrex Ice with Weakness Policy, and then you bullet punch it to proc the Weakness Policy and go crazy. Yeah, that's I think my choice is definitely Riolu. I think that's my all-time favorite trash mod.
I'm trying to find my RTT4 team.
Yeah. I actually have so two mons that are actually bad and one that was a good mon that I ran very badly, but it worked. Um, Series 5, I don't think you guys might remember this. The Doug Trio weakness policy
Mm-hmm.
um, Tentacruel team that Slacking and I made, and I think like in Series 6 he developed it even more. That was one like the only team in Series 5 that actually clicked with me, and that was a super super fun team to use. And so those I'd say those would be like my two like bad Pokemon, and then like a bad set. Going back to Series 10 again, I ran Life Orb, Shadow Ball, Indeedee Female because Modest. I think it was like Modest, Life Orb, Shadow Ball to like the second bump was a guaranteed Oko on Calyrex Shadow. And I just needed something on my team. Like I was running like this team was it was a hot mess, but I loved it. It was like God, what was it? So you had the Indeedee female, Mamo, Gyarados, Aleki, and like something and like a two I think like Instant and another Mon. And I was just losing so hard to Calyrex Shadow every single time. And I was like, oh, well, I'm just going to go use my Indeedee because the Calyrex Shadow can't hit my Indeedee. And I just deleted Calyrex Shadow with an offensive Life Orb Indeedee. Don't do that; it's bad. But
Yeah,
it
then
was
you run
great.
into the opposing Indeedee Calyrex, and you're like, oh, okay.
Oh, if there was
I
another
can't hit
Indeedee
the
on the
Indeedee.
team, I was like, no, I'm done.
It's over. I can't.
Yep.
Carter, I sent you the RTT4 doc.
I actually just pulled it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at this team, I played a lot of Morgrim in my time in RTT. It was just like Grimmsnarl Light, and it still did everything it needed to. I think the mons that I really was impressed with are like Magmortar. Magmortar was absolutely absurd that season.
It was. This is your winning season, right?
Yes, this is the one season I won. And Jigglypuff was like single-handedly the reason I won.
Yeah, Jiggly was your best Pokemon.
The finals match, getting off a Perish Song and then like ally switching is like single-handedly what won me that season. Like it didn't do anything the rest of the season, but like the finals, it was able to get off a Perish Song and then like just win me the game because of that.
Goated.
I remember like
is goated.
Also, shout out to Spirit Tomb, being a 2-time RTT champion, back-to-back seasons, thanks to me and Aaron.
I was going to say, yeah, like watching your run and then watching Aaron's and like you guys sending like, I think it was Aaron's like finals match. I was in a CVS parking lot and I was like, I have to drive home, but I don't want to miss this. And I just sat in the parking lot watching the showdown. And I like when he won, I just completely popped off and I'm like, okay, I can drive home now. Okay, do you want to get to BJB's second question?
Yeah, if I can pull back up the questions here.
Cake or pie?
Cake or pie? This is very simple. Tiff makes this like peaches and cream pie that is absolutely to die for, and it is by far the best thing that like anytime that we like do like Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever, it's just like, how many of those pies can you make? It's not enough. Make more of them. One of my buddies, Michael, makes a fantastic like peanut butter cream pie as well. It's like, oh yeah, pie is strictly better in every way.
I disagree with you, and for all the same exact reasons as what you're giving me here. My sister is like an outrageously good baker, and she makes this amazing funnel cake and just amazing homemade cakes all the time. And I'm like not a huge fan of most like of the fillings for pies, just personally. So yeah, cake is always the go for me.
The big thing is a pie needs a good crust.
Absolutely.
Like if it's like dried out and just bad, then it's like, oh yeah, your pie sucks. Whereas like cake, as long as it's like somewhat moist and like consistent throughout, then it's good, right? Like
yeah,
as long as it's not just either overcooked or undercooked, it's good. I think it's easier to have a good cake than a good pie. Is a simple way to put it.
I hate to be the type. This is actually one of the toughest questions we got from me because in the grand scheme of things, I really don't like either. I don't seek either out. Ice cream's the best dessert, or like different like other like Italian pastries, and in that sense, a lot of those are closer to a cake. That and like Amanda is an amazing baker. She made these really great. Can you not? That is anti-Italian discrimination.
He's changing his vote.
You're changing plans.
But yeah, no, like Amanda is an amazing baker. Like she made these cupcakes for Christmas Eve. They were like these chocolate peanut butter cupcakes, and like she does like the homemade frosting and everything. And so like I'm leaning cake if I had to choose one of the two. But if you gave me a third option, there's a good chance that regardless of what that third option is, I'm probably going with that third option.
Cobbler.
Yeah,
I
like
love
a good cobbler.
Cobbler. If we're being honest, I think it was like last summer when we first moved into this house. I went on like, it was probably like a month spree of just like, we should make a cobbler. Just like every night for like a month, we had cobbler, and it was fantastic. And I gained a lot of weight in that month for some reason.
I don't see the correlation.
Yeah,
I don't either. It must have
know.
been something
Stress.
else. I just don't get it. Yeah,
That was
stress. Let's go with
Yep,
that.
definitely stress.
Are we ready to move on to question 5?
Yeah, sure. Hit me.
I'll read this one out. This one is from Don Mateo, one of my really good buddies over in UDL and RTT. And he asks, is it really worth it to go to a regional? The time, money, and effort just to get there, in addition to the hassle of team building, is it really worth it? And my answer to you is going to be like my experience has been that when I've actually traveled to a regional, I went to go and meet with Carter and Manny and a whole bunch of people. All my other regionals have been the ones that are within driving distance for me, ones that I can go and just get there within an hour, a couple hours, really. So some of the more local regionals. This season, there's none that were really all that close to me, so it's probably not looking like I'm going to go to any of them because it's very expensive. There's it's a lot of travel. It's a lot of work in the team building process. It is very rewarding. It is a very amazing time when you do go to them, but realistically, it's a lot of money for the average person. It's a lot of travel for the average person. If you can make a vacation out of it, then I think it's worth going and traveling to a regional. But, for the average player who isn't going and top cutting and making their money back, it is a big financial burden, and I can understand. So it's really up to whoever, up to you on whether or not it's worth it. There's tons of great experiences to be had, but it's also very expensive and a lot of time sink.
Yeah, I think that's like the best way to put it is it depends, right? Like if you're going in with the mindset of, oh, I have to break even on this trip, I have to like do well in this event to be able to like make this a weekend worth it, then probably not, right? Like the average player is not going to go in and top cut a regional, right? Like, but if you're going to, make this a trip to remember, if you look at this as this is a vacation and this is what, like, I'm going to hang out with my friends and like see people I haven't seen in who knows how long, then like that's the part that makes it worth it to me, right? Like getting to go to Knoxville this year, it wasn't just about, oh, there's a tournament. Like, yes, that's the reason I'm there, but like in reality it's like, hey, I'm gonna get to go, Tiff is gonna get to go play in her first one. I'm going to be able to go see people that I want to hang out with, and like the reason we're all there is this tournament. But at the end of the day, I just really want to hang out with people I like and want to have a good weekend while I'm there.
Yeah, so I have many sayings that I don't say on the pod or sometimes do say on the pod. And one of them is like, nothing worth doing is easy. And I do believe that these events, it's a lot like, excluding the financial side of things, which you always do have to take into account, but like in terms of the team building and everything, or just even getting there, it is worth it. Some of my best memories and best experiences in this community have been going to live events. Like Secaucus, I was Jay and I and Bauer Dad. We were just like hanging out the night before the tournament, hanging out in my hotel room for a solid 2.5 hours, just talking about Mons and like what we expected to see at the event, or just like actually being able to see each other and spend time with each other. When
Yeah, we
you're
were freaking out over what players were going to be there too. I remember that.
I know, it's like we were like, holy crap, like we're going to go. Like I remember my second game. I'm playing against Joe UX9, and the three of us like huddling together and doing a freaking novena for me, which did nothing because he wiped the floor with me. But it's like the moments. Even like this past year with me, I went to NAIC. Like I did not play super well at NAIC, and part of that is because I didn't put the work in to team build, and that work, like I'm not saying that dedicate your entire life to it, but also like do what Jay did with his Hartford run, where he had a team he was comfortable with. He played some games, he did like some small tournaments, but it's not like he dedicated his life to building the perfect team. Don't do what I did, which is come up with a team Sunday night, build it in game on Tuesday, and then spend all of Wednesday and Thursday traveling. So Friday, round one, is the first time you ever even play the team.
Yeah, that's what locals are for, right? Like,
yeah.
So if you want to just like have a goofy time and play something, off the wall that you've never played before, go play a local. But like, if you're traveling to these big events to play the big event, obviously doing well is like something you want to do. So if your goal is to do well in the tournament, obviously you need to put in the work to have the results you want. If your goal is to go and hang out and just see people and do whatever, then do that. Like if the overlying idea is, hey, this is what's bringing us all together, then like it's just a venue of your fun, right?
Yeah.
And obviously winning while also hanging out with the people you like, it just feels even better, right? Like, so there's in my opinion, regionals are some of the most fun that I have, and that's why I try to make try to make at least one every year. And when I do, it's a big trip for me, right? That's why Knoxville was 8 weeks vacation. That's why hopefully I'm able to go to like NAIC this year and make it a week's vacation and hang out with the people I want to see and play the tournament the couple days that it's going on and do whatever else the rest of the time. Like once the tournament's over, I'm there to just have a good time,
Yeah. Like I with you bringing up NAIC, I will say that outside, like if you have a regional within driving distance, I don't know what you would call your driving distance. I would say if you have the time off work and you want to do it, and you also know like there's going to be these people here that I can see, absolutely do it. That was like the main thing with me going to my events this year, is to like see friends and actually like meet people. Like NAIC this year, I got to meet Chris, who is like one of my best friends in this entire community playing Pokemon. And it was like his wife was saying to him, you talk with this guy every single day and you've never met. And he's like, yep. And same with Amanda. And it's like to be able to or even like when I picked up Dad or like saw Jay, it's like we knew each other from Discord. We didn't know each other in person, except from that point forward, it's like, okay, yeah, like everything came together, and it's like you become so close to these people. If you are to go to one event though that you are traveling for, and you can say I can only do one event a year that isn't like a drive, I highly suggest it to be an event like NAIC. That is an event where you're going to be able to catch the most people, because that's like the one event where like everyone is going, especially this year where they're having it in New Orleans. I know like a lot of people, especially last year, a lot of top players or just players in general, they skipped NAIC if they already had their invite, because in the grand scheme of things, they didn't want to go to Columbus. there's a lot to do in New Orleans. It's going to be a super fun venue for a NAIC, and like yeah, if there's one you want to travel to, I definitely suggest that one, and it will be worth your time. You're going to have the time of your life. On a smaller scale, find your locals, go to your local events, meet the people around you that do who enjoy doing what you do, which is taking a child's video game way too seriously. So our next question is asked by a good friend of mine, talking about local players, Cage, who I coached. I coached him when the 1 year I was a indoor track coach. So talk about getting locals. Cage asked, if you could travel and spend a year anywhere in the world, where would it be and why? So for me, the Italian Riviera, where my fiance and I will eat great food and just drink wine as we look over into the Riviera for an entire year. That is easy, exactly where I would want to be.
For me, I think it would be. I don't know if I had like a full year, I would definitely just like try to make like a big trip out of it. But I am like a gigantic soccer fan my whole life. You know, I've played and watched, and my dream is to go and see Manchester United play in Old Trafford, in Manchester. I would love to go to England, and I would also love to go to Germany. I would love to go to Munich and watch Bayern Munich play, but also during Oktoberfest. That's a dream. It's to go to Munich during Oktoberfest.
I don't really have an answer for this one, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't imagine like just uprooting and spending a year literally anywhere else. But, like, also just like I've never traveled internationally, so I think like international travel would be really cool. But like, I don't have any like one place in particular I would want to go. It's just like I want to go see and experience everything that like European and Asian culture has to offer, but like I don't want to live in it. Does that make sense?
It does.
I just like if I could just have a year to just like not like just uproot my life for a year and just travel, that would be awesome. And just be able to do whatever I wanted wherever, and like not have to worry about paying a mortgage and like paying monthly bills and like do whatever related to that. But like also at the same time, I like knowing where I'm going to sleep every night. Like I don't want to have to stress about anything like that. I know that I can come home and just go to bed if I wanted to, and that's okay. So I don't know. Anywhere and everywhere, but also nowhere.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
Yeah,
obviously. My friend is he's home for the week because he's in the Air Force, and he just told me he's getting deployed to Japan, and I'm very jealous of him. He's gonna go and live there for like a year. I think, like, if there was a place I was gonna go and stay for a year, I think it might be Japan. I think that would be the spot.
Japan was also top of my list, but like, if it was if it was just me, it would be split between Italy and Japan. But I know like Italy in general, like that. Well, that's where my origins are from, like my family, both sides, and it's also just like I know a place where because how can I travel without my fiance? And because like that's
I wouldn't want to, right? Like
exactly. And so I know like Italy with her, it's actually super weird where Italy is one of the best countries for gluten-free food. The Italian government actually, if you have a dietary restriction, gives you a monthly stipend to help supplement the added food costs of having to like pay for like the gluten-free alternatives and such. And so like that's a place where we can go together and like feel comfortable, and like she loves Italian food, I love Italian food, I love wine. Oh, I love wine so much, just so much.
Angelo, it's 11:30 in the morning for you. You don't need to talk about alcohol.
Mind you, I think it's Friday. I haven't had to work for like a solid like week. Days and times just don't matter for me until like January 2nd, 2024, when I have to actually be a real adult for the first time in like close to a week and a half. Okay. You guys, Carter, you want to take the next question?
Sure. So this was asked by Violet. When I learn about other sports, there's always something I can take away and directly apply to VGC. Something that helps me, but is more obvious in that sport than VGC. What is something you can take away from any sport and apply it to VGC? So this is. I'm sure Jay can actually relate to this like exceptionally well, seeing how we've both like picked up golf in the last year. Um, Being in the right headspace is such a huge deal in both of those sports because like you can shank a shot and just be like screwed over and still have to like just you have to keep playing, right? Like putting yourself in a bad position, you still have to find a way to like making it work. And just having like a clear headspace is such a huge deal in any sport you want to play, to be honest with you. I think that is like one of the biggest takeaways you can ever have. It's just like having a good like mental fortitude is something I would highly recommend that like more people work on.
Yeah, to build on what you're saying, like I think accepting that you're gonna make mistakes is something that's the most important thing when it comes to getting your headspace right. I think it's a little less clear sometimes in VGC that you're making a mistake until after the game or after the set, and you look back and you're like, oh wow, like I really made this mistake, and I'm gonna really harp on it now that we lost. When in sports, you make that mistake and it happens, and you have all this time to recover afterwards. Um, Except that you're going to make mistakes, try to identify them while you're playing, and learn to recover from those mistakes. Nobody's perfect, even the top players in the world. That's why nobody's going and winning every single tournament back to back to back, because everyone makes mistakes, everyone runs into bad matchups, everyone runs into bad times. And when you're playing sports, when you shank your golf shot, when you make a bad pass, when you turn the ball over or whatever, it's very obvious. How can you go and recover? That's something like coaches told me growing up with soccer, is that if you make a bad pass, you should not put your head in your head in your hands. You don't stop moving. You turn around and you sprint back as fast as you can, and you go and you chase that ball, and you go get back on defense to go make up for that mistake. And that's something that you can always try to do in Pokemon. Make that mistake, identify it, and then go and recover, because there's always room to work with.
Yeah, so I mean, on top of everything, mindfulness is super important. Um, I know Violet does a lot of team leagues, draft leagues, and one thing that I took in my year as a draft league, as a team, like a team league manager, is getting that mindfulness into players. I think that if you aren't if you're always comfortable, and you're comfortable with the uncomfortable, and you're up against a player who can tilt, you can, if you can weather your storm and you can get them into a position like they miss a key hydro pump or they get parried or something, and that ruins their headspace for the rest of the set, you've won before the game has even started. One person who I haven't brought this up in a while, my Phil Jackson Zen Master like ideologies. Jackson being one of the greatest NBA coaches ever, and that was like my thing where it's like I'm going to help my players always keep their mindfulness, always keep their peace. It's one of the fun things with it is Gil and I are able to communicate to each other just through like NBA gifs because of it. But yeah, it's that, and I think another aspect of it, to go away from like just mindfulness, is understanding how games evolve and how sports metagame. When you look at the NFL, on how offenses and defenses are always evolving to solve each other. You had these really strong like late 2010s, early 2020s, like super explosive downfield passing with Allen and Mahomes, and then defenses adopting the too high set to take away like the explosive plays. And now offenses are like, okay, well, we're just going to take what you're giving us within like the 0 to 15 yards, and we're going to get plays in the middle and let our skills players go and do their thing. That's metagaming Pokemon. It's we start out with this hyper offense. Most of the times, we always start out a metagame with a hyper offensive metagame because offense is always the easiest thing to solve. And then we figure out, okay, how do we beat this offense? And then the offense goes and figures out, okay, how do I beat these new defenses? We kind of saw this in Regulation C, albeit a little differently, where these balance teams, like the balance teams, came out in Storm, and offense is like, okay, how do we counteract the Palance teams? And that's when you saw these like the Garchomp, Goldango, Talonflame, hyper offense stuff. And then it's like balances, okay, how do we defend against that? And that's how we got New Balance, like about 2.5 months into the metagame. And like that was really just a microcosm of how things develop. You're always trying to figure out the ebb and flow of offense and defense, and in these metagames, and if you can stay on top of that and figure that out where the next step is trending, you're always going to have a good grasp on what teams you're going to see at any tournament you're going to go to.
And just on a final note here, practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
You practice in sports, you get better. You practice in Pokemon, you get better. Question number 8 here, asked by Blake, another friend from UDL RTT. Hey guys, thoughts on Raikou and what sets do you think are going to go crazy? Raikou itself this season, I think is going to be like, if you're going to be running it, it'll probably be as like a fast screen setter, more than likely. I think it's like a little outclassed by like Raging Bolts and Iron Hands and other electric types, and screens has not been a fantastic archetype in Scarlet and Violet so far.
You're just like as a whole.
Yeah, I think that the meta might be shifting more defensively with Pokemon like Incineroar being added into the format, but I think that Raikou will be a fast special attacker that might run, screens and Snarl support sometimes.
I mean, it's like the same thing that like it's always done here lately, right? Like Raikou is not a especially offensive like fast attacker anymore. Like the game itself is developed in such a way where like that's not like the role it's able to pull off anymore. Everything is either too bulky now or hits you back just as hard, just as fast. So being able to adapt in some way really does make a big difference for it. Which is why, if we go back to like the first question where we talked about like favorite teams I've ever played, Raikou was a part of that team as just like, I think it set screens and it spams Snarl, right? Like that's what it needed to do on that team, is just like be a nuisance and pivot in and out as needed. So like, I think that's just like its role anymore as a whole. It's like, I don't think it's a Pokemon that can just be a centerpiece of like trying to be an offensive powerhouse in VGC. Now like singles, it probably is able to line up better in like a metagame like that when it comes to like offensive pressure, but being able to have your pivot move like also be a stab attack that you can just sit there and spam in like Volt Switch seems pretty important in like OU, but that's not the game we play, right? That's not the format that we as a community play. So I'm really not sure if Raikou is really viable at all.
So I did pull up some data from Lab Mouse. Shout out to Tim. So I will say, if you do look at any data with the legendary beasts for Regulation F, the early data is really weird because Limitless didn't have the beasts, like the Paradox beasts coded in. So if you look at the Lab Mouse data for week 1, the most used ability on Raikou is Protosynthesis, because it was counting all of the Raging Bolts as Raikous. But recently, for the Tommy Tour, it looks like it was used on Hyper Offense Tailwind stuff with Whimsicott Return, Rillaboom, Flutter, and so on, as a Spexmon with like coverage moves such as Scald and Aura Sphere to go with like T-Bolt, Volt Switch, and Electro Web. So
Or Shifu
pretty
counter.
yeah, which like it's cool. And if it's a Pokemon that you want to use, definitely like try using it. If you're like the most important thing is to have fun. In doing so, also understand that there are better Pokemon. Like again, Raging Bolt is just in general better than Raikou, and it's understanding like are you playing for fun or are you playing to win? And if you can win with this Pokemon, then amazing. Like you've gone above and beyond, but it might not be like the secret meta threat that like a hidden gem or anything like that. But yeah, at least like this is how people have been using it. So do with that what you may. I don't think that's a sentence. I went to school for numbers, not words, folks. This next question is specifically for me. Speaking of devil, it's from Chris. For Row, what was Chris most right about this year? Secondly, best meal you ever cooked. And the second part, I think, could be all for all three of us.
Yeah, I plan on filling in on that one.
Yeah. For what you were most right about, Chris, because I say things on the pod. What brought this up was last week. I got a text from him. He said, "You are so wrong about Entei," and I know it's only been a week, but I feel like I've already get that smirk off of your face. It's like when the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes. He's like,
if any of my anime watchers are out there, that was the Anya Forger smile, like low-key. So shout out Spy Family.
Like a week in, like not even like a week into that, I was wrong. It's A tier. I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot, and I'm right a lot. Depends. We're going to get to that being right later. But I'd say the most right thing Chris was right about was actually Azumarill in Reg C. I know like him and another one of our friends, Jacob, was using Azu a lot in Reg C. And as the regulation grew, like towards the end, it ended up being a Pokemon that was honestly like one of the staple water types of the regulation. I brought it to NAIC, and in the time I used it, I was like, wow, this Pokemon's actually really good. Like, it didn't hit as hard as Palafin, but you had that fairy typing, which was super important in a meta with Tinglu.
And you didn't have to switch out.
You didn't have to switch out. You had the immediate damage. You could run a defensive Terra. It was honestly like a super fun Pokemon to use, and I just wish I realized it sooner so I could have used it a lot more. Favorite thing to cook, or like best thing I ever cooked? I'm not sure if it's 100% the best thing I cooked, but it's like one of the, like the more proud things. It was actually this past Thanksgiving, a few days before Thanksgiving. When Amanda and I went down to visit my parents, I told my mom like I was going to cook for her, and she didn't have to do anything. And I made her. It was just simple, like creamy sausage and spinach pasta, and it was something like I've made a lot, and it was like I know this is good, but hearing it from my parents, again, both Italian parents, both very very good cooks, that like I did a really good job and that they couldn't have done it better themselves. That meant a lot to me. Like my dad telling me, all he said was he's like, you had the like perfect amount of like the red pepper, and just hearing that from him meant the world to me. That I'm like, okay, I did this perfectly. And that is that and making the Sunday family like the Sunday family gravy properly. I'd say that as well. Like that's just like a family tradition to be able to do that and not using like jarred sauce. What's the best thing you guys have ever cooked?
Jay?
I make a really good homemade mac and cheese, and mac and cheese is my favorite meal. So I cook that, and I've been doing it for my family. I love like breadcrumbs on mac and cheese, so incorporating
absolutely.
that and like baking it is really nice. And I love at school when I would have mac and cheese, they would put raw breadcrumbs on your mac and cheese, and I think that's delicious too. But
Interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
so the homemade mac and cheese is my favorite meal for sure that I made.
I just made a jalapeno bacon mac for Amanda. Well, so she's the one who came up with the recipe. I cooked it for her because she's been under the weather this week, and I found these gluten-free panko breadcrumbs about a month and a half ago or so. I initially I was using them for like making chicken cutlets and stuff, and that was like the first time I was like, oh, let me put breadcrumbs on the mac and cheese and bake it.
It's so good.
Game changer.
It's so good. It really
Game changer.
is.
Game changer.
So I bought myself a smoker this year. So I've been just like, give me anything and I'll throw it in the smoker and it'll turn out great. One of the things I've made a couple different times now is like Mexican street corn dip. And it's just like, you take like canned corn or like frozen corn and mix it with like cream cheese and just like a bunch of tahini and lime juice and just like throw it in the smoker and let it all like incorporate and mix together. I've never had like leftovers from it. And then like smoked cream cheese, which is literally, you just literally take a block of cream cheese, score it, season it with whatever you want, and throw it in the smoker for an hour. And like, it sounds weird and it's phenomenal.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's
I want
fantastic.
it so bad. I cannot have a smoker where I live, but the second I have a house and can have a smoker, I am doing the same thing and buying a smoker and just smoking.
It's fantastic. So you do like one of my favorites. You just like cover it in like everything bagel seasoning, throw it in the smoker, and then when it comes out, you can do like jalapeno jelly on the side and everything. Oh, it's so good. It's phenomenal. I could talk about I could talk about food all day.
Carter's always sending some juicy pictures of the food that he makes.
Oh yeah, anytime I smoke anything, they get like updates on the hour.
You have to.
Thanksgiving, I smoked a turkey, and it's by far the best turkey I've ever had in my life.
Smoked turkey is the best way to do a turkey.
There's no comparison. Like, frying a turkey is not even close to as good as smoking it, and I will fight anyone who wants to argue otherwise.
Also, smoking a turkey, you don't risk burning the entire block down.
Literally making a gigantic nuclear explosion in your backyard with your
counterpoint. It takes forever.
Oh,
I started cooking this Thanksgiving at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I think it was, we didn't smoke a turkey this year, but last year we did a smoked turkey, a fried turkey, and then like the regular oven turkey. And the smoked turkey, my neighbor did it, and he started smoking it like, I think he smoked it for like 18 hours. And, like,
I think mine took me like
Wednesday.
14.
Yeah, I know he started like Wednesday night. Before he went to bed, he like put everything in. But yeah, no, smoked food, amazing.
Yep. Anytime you want good food, just like anytime you want like good smoked food, just come on over.
Know.
I got you. Please let me know beforehand so I can actually cook it. Don't just show up.
Yeah, otherwise you're gonna be waiting for 14 hours for your smoked turkey.
All right, what do we got next?
You take this one.
Yeah, so this is from Jackie. We've heard about Illumise versus Ambipom, but now it's time for Alchemy versus Sceptile. Who has more sauce?
Talking about me being right.
Does Alchemy do anything?
It does decorate stuff.
Decorate. Sceptile has a ton of sauce.
So I've seen Alchemy with Sweet Veil as the what's it called? As like the random spot on Trick Room teams. Like I saw there was it was a like Fergaraf. It was like a one of those like Dusclops or Fergaraf Blood Moon teams. Very similar to like what I was running, and it had Alchemy as like the extra mon. Sweet Veil stops your Pokemon from falling asleep, which is super important in the metagame where Amoonguss just becomes more and more important, especially if you're trying to go Trick Room. People bring Amoonguss as their Trick Room counter, and then you could also decorate your Blood Moon Ursaluna to let it get the +2s and also still have it hold something like a Life Orb to do even more damage. I think its role would be on these sorts of teams because they didn't give us Tapu Fini, and I think like Tapu Fini not being in the game is really what is holding back these Trick Room teams because Amoonguss, like all of these teams, struggle so much against Amoonguss. I mean, we saw, I think it was Karis, a top player was using Uproar for Igaraph in order to make sure that his Blood Moon Ursaluna did not fall asleep. So like, people are doing some crazy things to like make sure that like their Pokemon aren't falling asleep, and that's something that Alchemy can do that a lot of other Pokemon can't do.
Sceptile gets Shed Tail. We didn't talk about this.
Oh, it did?
It gets Shed Tail. It gets Shed Tail, it gets Dragon Cheer, and like it gets Unburden, and it has like Breaking Swipe and a bunch of other really good like support moves. So you can run it with like Rillaboom or Indeedee or something that's going to take its item away and get that speed boost, and then you can run Shed Tail, you can run Breaking Swipe, acrobatics, substitute. I think it has a lot of really fun stuff, and I know that Sceptile was amazing in RTT. I believe that was also on Aaron's RTT winning team.
It was, it and War Turtle, so you can do pledge things.
Yeah,
and I think that like Alchemy as a Pokemon is better. It has better stats. Its typing is really good. It has multiple good abilities with Aroma Veil and Sweet Veil. Right, it gets Aroma Veil as its other one, does it?
Yes.
Okay, which stops taunt and things like that, and then Sweet Veil as well, which stops the sleep stuff. But like in terms of sauce, like they both have a lot of sauce that they can put out. I think Sceptile has the like more variety of sauce, but like Alchemy's sauce is like in really nice jars.
Yeah. No, I think you put it
presentation
best,
is everything. I understand.
I think Alchemy does one thing, and it's I think like the Sweet Veil Decorate is like the only thing it really should be doing. But it does it so well. It's the only Pokemon that has that kit. So again, for that specific team, you need that specific role. Like it's like putting like a square peg in the square hole. Like it fits perfectly. Sceptile, like it's if especially you're playing closed team sheet, you don't know what this thing's. You know it has Unburden, and that's it.
Everything else is up in the air. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Like I think it would like Sceptile's like the draft league mon, where you're looking at it doing something different for your team depending on the matchup week over week.
It's a really good draft league mon.
Yeah, it is. So like draft league champ Sceptile, I think for just like your usual like limitless tours, maybe it sneaks into a day 2. That would be Alchemy. Next question is from Smeargle. What are words of advice from all the hosts when it comes to Pokemon as a whole, from getting into VGC, learning how to play it, getting better, and finding how one plays their best game? I think we've touched on a lot of this stuff in general. In terms of getting into it, I think it's just finding a community. Getting into it alone, I feel like, is super difficult. Solely because there's so much
didn't work.
There's so much stuff that like the game just does not explain to you. They don't explain EVs. They don't explain IVs. They don't just like the most basic things. I'm sure all 3 of us have friends who play Pokemon that don't understand like even just basic competitive stuff. I'm in another server. It's for this podcast that does like a Pokemon like D&D like thing, and there were people there like, oh, I'm trying to put together my team for doubles for Indigo Disc, and it's like you'd see like mixed attackers, no protect, like not understanding like why like they'll like on a clearly like defensive Pokemon, like putting like an offense like Life Orb on Garganacl or something, where it's like these don't mix, and those are things that you just will not understand unless you have someone experienced guiding you. So I think that's like the first thing is like finding that community, and then you guys can add it. I'm rambling.
Watch other people play, watch high level tournament play, watch regionals and worlds, and it doesn't matter if it's from the same exact regulation. You can learn a lot throughout, looking all the way back to Reg A and Scarlet and Violet, but even looking back to earlier tournaments, you can learn, just different things about field states, weather, just the way though to think about making plays. And I think it's best to just get it from the high level players. There's so many amazing players who make content that go deep into Pokemon and teams, and they post rentals and they show all that stuff. We're luckily in an age of somewhat accessibility in terms of if other people are out there making an effort, you can find stuff that they make with rental teams. And there's a lot of ways that you can play. So yeah, just getting into it, watching YouTube, playing, practicing, playing in tours, finding a community. It wasn't until I started playing in draft leagues that I really started getting into the game, and then through that I found other communities, and I found a much more, expansive look on Pokemon as a whole. But like personally, I think that playing in draft leagues is like the best thing you can do as a player, because you learn the ins and outs of everything, all the Pokemon you're playing, all the Pokemon you're facing, and it's just a great way to learn against some of the best things that are out there.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I will add to this that no one else has mentioned is like learning how to play and get better. Play everything.
Yep.
Do not be afraid to say like I as a whole am a hyper offensive player, right? Like I understand how I enjoy playing the game. That doesn't mean like we have talked about how my favorite team of all time is a Toxic Stall Eternatus team, right? Like those are very different teams. Those are absurdly different roles of how I normally would play the game. Being able to pick up a team and learn the ins and outs of it and understanding what the role of everything on the team is going to help you in the long run. Being able to do that to 10 teams, 15 teams, 100 teams, right? Being able to just say, hey, I can look at a team and know what's going on is such a huge deal. And like, I think that's something that has really changed from like closed team sheets time, right? Like in the olden times, being able to go, okay, sitting down, I know what Sceptile does. I know what my opponent is going to be doing with it. As opposed to now, you can go, I've never seen that before. Okay, cool. It's doing unburdened things. Like those are very different roles, and like I do think that the game is more accessible to anyone who ever wants to play it now more than ever, right? And I think the biggest addition that the game has ever added is access to rental teams. Being able to just take teams from high level players and playing them is going to help you out way more than trying to build a team of your own immediately. I think that is the biggest mistakes that players make when they first start out is they go,
Absolutely.
all right, I'm just going to slap these 6 Pokemon together that I really like, and it's going to work out fine. It's not. And unfortunately, that's like a hard truth that every player has to come to. And I think every player can basically say that at some point they went, maybe I'm not doing this right. And, I'm the same way. My first regional, I started brewing with Infernape because I'm like, Iron Fist seems like it's going to do a ton of damage. And in reality, it was really bad. There's a reason no one was playing it. I understand that after putting in the work of like grinding my teeth against, just grinding my teeth and trying to figure out why these things aren't working. Instead, if I had just looked at it and went, oh, hey, Incineroar's really good. What is this doing? Why is it on so many different teams as opposed to, well, I know what it does. I'm just gonna kind of just try to build it to beat it immediately, right? Had I taken the time to learn what everything does before I started to try to really integrate and build it myself, I feel like I would have started out much better than where I am now.
I think even adding to that is with these rental teams, like realize there's a metagame for a reason, and these high-end players, they put certain Pokemon on the team for specific reasons. Like when you get these rental teams, instead of immediately trying to change it, just use the team as is. And like I know this is something that I still struggle with, where you still want to have like that own like little twists of your own. So you're like, hey, I'm original, I built this. No, just play it the way it is, like stat for stat, and just go in because there's a reason why each Pokemon is there. And then from there, you can realize, hey, well, I might like this a little more. Like a more modern, like a team like right now that's a little more modern is like the P2 Araquanid teams. A lot of teams are running them with P2, and I tried it a little bit with P2, and I just liked it with Fergraph more because I think I was like Armor Tail is doing more for me. But I at least like I asked a lot of people who are running it with P2, a lot of vet players, on what it was, and from a lot of them, they said honestly, it's just preference, and that made me feel comfortable with saying, okay, well, I can run it with Fergraph because that's my preference. I think the other thing as well, do not go in if you're going in and saying I don't want to use Incineroar, I don't want to use Urshifu, or I don't want to play Tornadus because those are like the popular Pokemon, and I don't want to use these Pokemon. You are immediately capping your ability of success.
You're putting yourself at an immediate disadvantage.
Yeah, not even just with like a specific tournament, but just with your specific level of growth, because you're always putting yourself behind the eight ball, and you might end up not learning as much and being what's the word I'm looking for, dissatisfied with your results. But that's simply because you're refusing to use Pokemon, like a specific Pokemon, and that's like sadly your favorite Pokemon might not be the VGC best. Like I haven't had a chance to take my favorite Pokemon to like regionals or even local events because I actually I took Mamoswine to one event, but still it's like I wasn't able to do that because I understand, yeah, there's better Pokemon for me to use, and for what I want out of the game, I want to have fun and bring Pokemon I enjoy, but I also do want my hard work to give me results, and to do that, I'm gonna have to bring Incineroar. I'm gonna have to go and use like these Pokemon, as they are, and like I have to realize, put your own hubris aside and your own ego aside, and say, I do not know what I'm doing, or these people know better than I do, and all I can do is use these teams to learn, and maybe someday I can get to a level where I feel comfortable enough where I can at least look at a team and say, is this a good team or not that I built, and take those lessons and those parts to put forth. Yeah, really good question. Okay, Jay, you want to get these next two?
Sure. These next two are by Kamikaze Kid. They ask, what is the best new Paradox Pokemon to pair with Florges? And are you excited for Regulation F? So I am very excited for Regulation F. I actually feel for the first time a little bit like invigorated to play in a long time. I think that there's a lot of new Pokemon, and I think that the metagame is going to really shift, especially with these new Paradox Pokemon. For Florges, I think you're going to have a tough time in this format with Florges just because of how physical it is. There's a lot of physical attackers, and Florges isn't really known for its physical bulk all too well. But if you were to pair it with a Paradox Pokemon, I think that it would be really good next to probably Raging Bolt to counter the Urshifu Tornadus combos a little bit better. Or potentially Iron Crown. I think could be pretty cool next on a team with it. just as like another way to counter the Urshifu, to do expanding force stuff with it. You can run it with Indeedee as well to kind of create a nice little combo, maybe allow Florges to set up or get a couple of KOs. I don't really know where it stands in this format, but like a Symbiosis Life Orb next to a Booster Energy Iron Crown could be kind of crazy on expanding force.
That's gonna do a bunch of damage.
So I was in a similar thought, but again, I pulled up the lab mouse information, and I saw that in the most recent tournament that Florges was used, it was partnered with Chiyu, Fluttermane, Iron Hands, and Tornadus Incarnate, and that made me immediately think, do Sunny Day stuff with Walking Wake. And again, the Life Orb Symbiosis with like a booster Walking Wake, so you always don't need that sun up, could be a super cool combination. In general, it's a very Florges just doesn't have the stats, and it's not in the spot in this metagame really to succeed, which again, it sucks that not every Pokemon can do well and be like this super, super great Mon. It does have like a bit of an interesting kit. It does get Chilling Water, Helping Hand, Pollen Puff, Tearful Look. So like it can do things. And I think like maybe its best role could be on an Iron Crown size spam team, or like a Walking Wake Sun team. And if you're doing that to play Florges, definitely do it. But I think in general, if you're running an Iron Crown team or a Walking Wake team, there's better Pokemon to use in that slot than the Florges. I'm also super excited for Regulation F. I think this is a really fun meta so far. I know it's only early meta, and probably by Portland, we're going to all be like, well, Tornadus Urshifu's great. But at least like where it is right now, there's a lot of super cool teams that are around. You have the you have the Sun stuff, you have the Iron Crown size spam, you have these Latias balance teams that I've been playing that are really, really fun. The Tornadus Rain, the Archaludon Rain. Apparently there's a Sand team that's like bopping around that is like doing something. I saw like someone on Twitter yesterday, it was an Asian player posted like they shared like 16 different like rental codes, and they had like, here's Sun rentals, here's like these different types of balance rentals, here's like the Sand rental. Like there's a lot of super cool teams that people are playing around with right now. The question is, come March or April, are we still going to like, is it going to be like Reg E, where there's like, oh yeah, there's really like two types of teams, and by two teams it's one team played slightly differently, or like are there actually going to be like 5 or 6 different like super cool archetypes to use?
So I also am very excited for Reg E, or for Reg F, excuse me. And I think a big part of it is because there's so many new things to be able to play with that, just from like a content creation point, I haven't done really anything besides the podcast in a hot minute. And so I think I think that's part of it, is I just want to get out and start playing again and doing a lot of grinding and playing and doing the things that I am known for, right? Of just like playing the bad mons on bad teams and having fun while doing it. But yeah, I think this format's going to be very exciting, and I think the fact that like, we haven't really talked about it, but since we know that the Paradox Mons are legal now, it's kind of a shot in the arm of like my excitement. Like, I'm very excited to be able to finally play with like Walking Wake, because when it first came out, I went and played OU because I wanted to play with it. I'm just like, yeah, this thing is kind of dumb, to the point where like I was playtesting it during the time where they were like suspect banning it, and I believe it ended up like not getting banned, which is very surprising, because every game I played with him, like, this is dumb. I don't know why this is legal, but this is dumb. I was playing it on like you had Heat Rock Torkoal to be able to set your sun, and then I was Specs Hydro Cannon or whatever it's Steam Cannon. It's like nothing's living that. I'm booster. I get my special attack boost, and then I'm choice specs, and it's just like you're getting one shot. Go away.
Yeah, so I just checked Smogon. It still is OU.
Yeah,
It's,
which is not
it's
surprising.
because you need the sun really to do that
Correct.
damage.
Correct.
And it's not as easy in VGC as you can just switch into the secondary partner. You only have one Pokemon on the field, so if you're bringing that Walking Wake in, you're either risking damage or your Torkoal is KO'd. And Torkoal's not known for being super frail. It's pretty bulky, a little hard to remove, so it could really eat up that sun turns, which is why you have to run the Heat Rock.
Yeah, right now, Walking Wake, the OU analysis, they're running Timid Specs with Hydro Steam, Flamethrower, Draco Meteor, Dragon Pulse, and it's just like a great wall breaker. And really, the set you would probably be running, like, you could do specs in VGC. The set a lot of people have been doing is Life Orb with the Hydro Steam, Flamethrower, Draco Meteor. And yeah, no, this is the shot in the arm that Sun teams desperately needed. I still think Rain is better because in the grand scheme of things, I think Urshifu is just a better Pokemon than Walking Wake. Shocker, Urshifu is really good, folks. But like, it's not like last regulation where there was no Sun whatsoever because the Rain teams were just that much more powerful. This is like between getting Walking Wake and of course the other two Paradox like past Paradox Legends, and also getting a Pokemon like Venusaur, which I'm not sure how good Venusaur is, but it's like, again, like another addition to Sun's like toolkit that could help this archetype that was honestly a staple of regulations A through C rejoin the metagame. So the last two are actually from our wonderful host, Jay. So, Jay,
Sure.
why don't you ask us?
I will ask you both what I asked. What is everyone's favorite hobbies outside of Pokemon? And what is your favorite music album of all time?
Why don't you start that off, Jay?
Okay, so outside of Pokemon, things that I really love to do is hang out with my cat and dog. I love to play golf, play soccer, and I really love listening to music and watching anime. Like, those are like my probably top, couple things that I do. I've had a recent shift in my music album tastes. My favorite album for a very long time was Igor by Tyler, the Creator. It is no longer my favorite album of all time. Unfortunately, it has to go to Scaring the Hose Volume 1 by JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown. That album is perfection, man. That album is literally the most fun I've had listening to music in the longest time. And if you haven't listened to it, if you don't like off the cuff, outrageous, just fun, crazy sample heavy hip hop, that's the album. It is just that good.
Yeah. God, so I'll do mine next. So it looks like Carter's still thinking. Outside of Pokemon doing this podcast, I do love listening to other podcasts. I love, like, audio drama in general is my favorite way to get entertainment. I'm really not a big TV guy. When I am watching TV, it's sports. I'm a massive Philly sports nut. I'm a huge analytics draft guy with all these sports as well. As members of our community know, last year I ran a mock draft competition for the NFL draft. I will be doing that again this year. With anyone who wants to join. I've already been doing mock drafts, trying to figure stuff out like that. I love listening to stuff like that. I really do enjoy cooking, figure out new things, making new things. Big into cooking YouTube. I also huge music guy. I'll get my albums later, but in general, like I have been listening to a lot more top 40 pop than usual, and that's mostly because that's kind of what I do for work is work in like analyzing pop radio. So that like when you see a song and a report enough times, you're like, well, I have to actually hear what it sounds like. And so yeah, I've been a bit of a pop girly for like the last year or so because of work. And I'm also a Freemason. I think I've mentioned this before, but yeah, that's something that is very important to me. We do a lot of charitable work in the local area that around where I grew up. That's where my lodge is. We give a lot to like the food banks, to heating, like helping with elderly assistance with heating, do like different like fun fundraisers and stuff. And it's just like having another place and group of people to be around to help me grow as a person. It's big. Like I'm very involved in it. It's what I do. Like I'm doing stuff for it multiple times, like multiple days a week, and yeah, it's super important to me. Favorite albums, I would have to say I'm gonna like list a few that I really love. Igor by Tyler the Creator is like Tyler's my favorite artist, and I think Igor is my favorite overall like album by him. Um, I'd say other albums that I do enjoy. The Beatles' Revolver is absolutely amazing. Bruce Springsteen. Um, oh my God, Jesus, I'm trying to think. Which Bruce album would I say is my favorite? Born to Run, probably the first. Is his first album. I'd say there. What else do I enjoy? I enjoy a lot of different types of music. Things I've been listening to a lot recently. Um, Sabrina Carpenter's Emails I Can't Send. Love her. Like just amazing. Love her. She's perfect. What else? I'm trying to think. Vampire Weekend, their first album I really enjoyed. Very formative in my youth. Bon Iver's For Emma Forever Ago. LCD Sound System's Sound of Silver. And MF Doom and Madlib, their Mad Villainy album. All caps, man. Say the name.
Figaro.
Yes.
Carter, your turn.
All right, my turn. Do I get to talk now?
You get to talk now.
So I decided to go pull up my Spotify and just look at like what albums do I have like all the songs downloaded from. I don't listen to my Spotify a ton anymore. I don't. Most of the time when I'm like at work or whatever, I will throw on podcasts and listen to them instead. But by far my favorite album of all time is 2014 Forest Hills Drive. I actually looking at it, I think I have every J. Cole album ever downloaded, which I didn't realize until I started looking through this. If we want to talk like older albums, one of my favorite, like especially growing up, was Rush's Moving Pictures. Just another like fantastic album that like there's not a bad song on it, and like Rush is just absolutely an absurd band. And it is there everything in Rush's discography is just insane. We're talking more like recent stuff. Young Gravy's Marvelous album is also just like fantastic. I love Young Gravy.
The
but
Zach
yeah,
Wilson of the music world.
Yes,
I do. I do.
100%. I love Young Gravy. His stuff is just so off the wall, and it's so funny. I love all of his music.
He does love people.
But yeah, 2014 Forest Hills Drive is like one of the only albums that like I can just put on and just listen to for like back to back to back. It is. I can put that album on loop and just listen to it, and just it's so good. I actually couldn't tell you the last time I listened to it, so that might need to change. As for like hobbies outside of like Pokemon, I love reality TV, and this is something that I've just like have come to terms with here recently. I love Survivor. It is one of my favorite shows of all time. And this last season, like season 45 just ended, and it is awesome. It was so fun to be able to watch. So we last night started this new show. It's called The Traders, and it's basically like real life Among Us. It is like the simplest way to put it. The simple concept is there's 20 people that live in this castle together. 3 of them are traitors, and every night vote to murder someone. So then the rest of the house is trying to figure out who the traitors are so they can vote them out. So every day 2 people leave the house, one from being murdered and one from being voted out. At the end of the game, if all the traitors are voted out, everyone else splits the prize pool. And if a single traitor is left, they win the entire prize pool. It's a really cool show. Season 1 is on Peacock. Season 2 starts airing, I think, like sometime in January. It's a really cool show. I would highly recommend it. Past that, I've started playing golf this year again. That's been an absolute blast. Just being able to go like hang out with a couple of my buddies every weekend has been a really fun time. And I've been really into Call of Duty again here lately. I can just sit down and just like play and just like ignore everything else in the world for a little bit and just be able to zone out and play is awesome. I listen to a lot of podcasts at work. I also play a ton of Marvel Snap, and I've been getting back into like Magic on their digital format Arena. They have a new format on there that is like, hey, everything is legal. It's fine. Everything's legal. And it's just been kind of absurd being able to just like play these like overly powerful cards that like have been banned in multiple formats and just being able to play on there. But yeah, Snap is like the one game, like the one mobile game that I play excessively. There was like multiple points this month where Casey, the Titan Rising, and I have been talking. We talk all the time about Snap, and it's just like, all right, I'm not really enjoying this format. I think I'm gonna just like step back and like not play, and I haven't. It's like I have done. I just love this game so much. It's probably the best card game I've ever played. So if like you're into like trading card games or anything like that, I would recommend it. It's very fun and very enjoyable and very simple to pick up and understand. I told Carl when we first started getting into it, I'm like, maybe we should just go be a Marvel Snap podcast.
I'm glad we didn't because I downloaded it and never played it.
I've never even downloaded it. I have no interest. I mean, honestly, there was a moment, I think it was... Yeah, there was a moment, or like, either late last year or earlier this year, where there was like one episode where you guys went on a Marvel Snap rant for like the first 20 minutes of the episode, and I'm like, are we no longer a Pokemon podcast?
Nope.
No.
Carl and I jumped ship.
Yeah, no, we're a sports podcast first and foremost. Apparently,
true.
At the start of our episode.
Very true.
We're a sports podcast that talks about Pokemon.
Yeah.
The card arts in Marvel Snap are amazing, though. That's one thing that I do know very much about, is because you share those a lot, and I do love all the card arts that they have.
So I'm pretty sure all the arts are pulled from comics, like all of them are.
It's doubly sick. So
it's so cool. The way that like comic art has evolved is just so cool, man. Peach Momoko is one of the artists that like. Every piece of art she puts out now, I'm just like, that's so good. I love this. And I would have never like found out about her art if it wasn't for Snap.
I just, speaking of art that I've recognized recently, Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2 just finished recently. It's an anime. It just finished its Shibuya incident arc. And it is just the most amazing animation that you will ever see in your entire life for like 16 straight episodes. So I couldn't recommend that more.
Have you been watching Invincible? Have you been watching season 2?
Yep, I'm caught up.
Have they come back from their like mid-season break yet?
No, I think it's after the new year.
Lame.
Yeah, very sad. We'll be patiently waiting for that one. But with that, we're out of questions.
We are. One other thing I just want to do, because it is the new year, and maybe this is like a question like for us, end of the year, mainly like with Pokemon or this podcast and stuff. What is the one thing that happened this year that you're like the most proud of or like happy with?
I got to go to Knoxville and hang out with my friends and get to meet
Okay.
Jay, and I guess also Manny. Manny was there, I guess.
Yeah, it would be hard to say that like anything made me more proud than my Hartford run. But in terms of just the most fun that I had this year, it had to like just hanging out with everyone, like meeting up in Knoxville was amazing, and then joining the podcast and having our hangouts on Sunday nights has been awesome, and just
or
being
Friday
able-
mornings because you all are masochists and won't let me sleep in.
You were
or Friday
I think
mornings.
I think you were the first person out of the three of us to be awake.
Oh yeah, I was up at like
Probably.
8.
But
I went to
Yeah,
bed at like
it's-
2 and I was up at 8. That's pretty typical for my days off.
in terms of like the year of Pokemon, I couldn't have asked for anything better. I've just had tons of amazing experiences with tons of amazing people, and being able to be on here and talk to everybody on a week to week basis, hang out with you guys every week has been just it's been a dream, really. So it's been just a brilliant time.
Yeah, for me, I think NAIC just again being able to spend time with everyone. We got like, God, 5 or 6 guys in the hotel room, and just all of us were like the bond that was created just from that trip, and to be able to spend that time with those people were.
I'm
just,
assuming you rented out like a penthouse and
No,
just
no.
put it on the
a
credit card.
regular hotel room.
Put it on the lake house.
I'm not
you know.
rich. I am not rich. And then the other, I hate you both. The other thing would be, which I'm now questioning, joining this podcast.
You're
It's
just
crazy.
now questioning it?
Yeah,
I need to
It's
step
crazy.
my game up.
how
Seriously.
Jay and I, like, the first time either of us, or at least I think the first time either of us were on the pod was like post our like first like big regional runs. Secaucus for me, Hartford for him, and then even earlier this year when Carter, you were like handling some things personally, me being like the fill-in host. I know like the joke was Angelo has to be on the podcast like once a month, and going from that to like being a part of this podcast and being a host on it, especially when it's like this podcast and this community is the reason why I finally decided to learn how to play this game. And that was like about 4 years ago. And to be in this chair now, being that person for someone else is like, I don't know, it's really important to me. It's really great. And I love being able to do this podcast with you guys. Sir.
Yeah, I guess
Sappy.
you all are all right or something.
I love you guys. This has been
Yeah.
a fun year, fun 200 episodes, and
200 more to go, baby. Let's do it.
that we're gonna keep it rolling. But with
6
that,
seasons in a movie.
I think it's 6 seasons
Hold
in a
on.
movie, baby.
Hold on, are we
Heck
getting our own?
yes.
Are we getting
And
a
a
Netflix
reboot.
adaptation?
Are we
We're gonna get a Netflix adaptation. We're gonna get a reboot of the reboot, and we're going to we're gonna run it back again. And
Absolutely. I don't even know who would play us.
Right.
I can't even.
I'll get a hold of Netflix for us. Don't worry.
yeah, I'm gonna call Chris Evans up.
Okay.
Some
Oh,
guy at
You,
work
you
said
have Chris Evans' personal number?
some guy at work said I looked like Chris Evans one time, so I'm gonna call Chris Evans. He can play me, obviously.
Okay. Just find. The
I
most
could see it.
we just have to find the most neurotic Italian to play me. I can't even think of anything.
Let's get Sylvester Stallone out here.
Oh, absolutely no. We're not getting Sly to play me.
Hey, come on, man! What are you talking about?
I'm done.
I think
That's
I
what
think
we're
that
gonna
is-
start the next year on. Is
Yeah, that's exactly what we're
terrible-
going to start the
No,
next year
Carter,
on.
who's playing you though?
I don't
this is
know, man.
important.
Man, I don't know. You're asking a lot of questions. I don't know actors' names. I just
All
know,
right,
hey, they're from stuff.
Okay, we just answered 17 questions. I don't think there's any need for anything more.
Jay goes
With that, that's the end of
Leave-
episode number 200.
Put down in the comments who would play me in the Netflix adaptation of LRL.
Also, who would play me that's not... So, actually, no, I don't want to know.
Yeah, don't
you
be mean,
think.
guys.
Don't be mean.
I can't wait for somebody to say Barack Obama for one of us.
Settle down.
I'm done. I'm
Get
leaving.
us out of here.
Thank you all
have
so
to
much
stay.
for watching episode number 200 of our crazy antics. Make sure you guys like, follow, subscribe, comment, all the fun YouTube stuff. Come join the community Discord. Come hang out with us. Follow us over on Twitter at LR Lessons. The website www.lrlessons.com. Check out the Patreon and the Discord links. Your support is so loved, and we are so grateful for it. Shout out to Johnny Bravo Sr. and Papa Swish for your support over on Patreon, and to Smeargle for your support over on Discord. And with that, it's been 200 episodes of Insanity. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next year. Peace.
Happy New Year.